Welcome to this Last Mile Profits video, the last word on the last mile. Do you know what an RPL is? If you don't, stay tuned to find out more. Modern Expo provides an integral ecosystem of screen-operated lockers, screenless autonomous solutions, refrigerated lockers, and even personal parcel lockers, powered by in-house developed software. Gary, today we are going to talk about RPLs. Not many people know what that means, but that is a residential parcel locker. I think you call them multi-family lockers?
We call them multi-family lockers, yeah.
And, whether they can work, and if so, where they can work. I'm a little bit of doubting Thomas in that regard, but maybe do you want to kick off with your sort of thinking about RPLs, and then we can take it from there?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, Quadient is probably market leader in the USA in multifamily lockers, and also university campuses, interestingly, which work. It's the same basic model. We've got something like 8,000 installed across the US in huge high-rise buildings of sort of 100, 200, 400 units, as they call it, to the point where it's now completely normal or standard of a building like that to have the lobby configured to take a very large parcel locker installation. We're in something like 62% of university campuses. Then these are lockers that are bought and owned by the university, installed for the benefit of the students to kind of automate what was previously a very laborious post-room task of receiving thousands of parcels and distributing them out.
So I love the university topic. And whenever I do a workshop with anyone, I say, if you're the first in the market, you must own all universities, because those are the future, movers and shakers who are going to not only be your customers, but also they can influence what happens. So that I buy. And I think universities are a little bit easier because although in many cases they're gated, you do have to drive in there. It's one gate, and you're probably going to have a couple of lockers or PUDOs you can address. I have an issue, though, Gary, with typical residential parcel lockers, which are behind closed, locked doors in a foyer. And whereas sometimes, there really isn't an alternative. My view is, wouldn't it be a lot better to have the same machine inside? If there's a fence or some kind of wall, you put it in the wall so it's accessible both to the community in general, but also to the residents.
I think that's an interesting take. I mean, definitely it would be better if they were public access, but I really think this is down to a structural difference in the housing market between Europe and North America. As you can tell from my accent, I'm English. Your accent's almost good enough that you could be English. That's a big compliment, by the way. And our home is our castle. So we typically aspire to live in a standalone house. And apartment living is what you do at the beginning of your housing career. You come out of school or university, you can't afford a house, you start off in an apartment. And these are typically lower investment communities, shall we say. There isn't a huge amount of money spent on facilities. In the US, it's utterly different. There are thousands of cities with tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands, of high-rise, glossy, shiny, very upmarket buildings where there is considerable competition and therefore considerable investment in facilities. So gaining access to the lobby is sorted out. Most of the carriers have got that anyway because they're delivering. If it's 400 units, average American gets 78 parcels per American per year. So you can quickly do the maths in your head and realize that UPS, FedEx, USPS are going to back a truck up to that building and disgorge quite a bit of volume into there every single day. So access is kind of sorted. But what was happening is the stuff was just being piled on the floor. So unless you're going to pay somebody to man that lobby as a doorman or as a porter all day or every day, it was a mess. Porch piracy was a mess. Security was a mess. So now it's become sort of standard, normal, to have a multi-access, directory-based locker in the foyer.
I see a lot of merit, and the US does have this big issue. And of course, you get porch piracy everywhere, but it really is a very, very big deal in the US. My challenge is still the fact, I think this is probably more a tweak rather than a revolution, is the minute that the locker is behind a closed door, yes, even if you've got access, you can't leave your vehicle in certainty that you're not going to get a parking ticket, which you can cover if you're parked near an external locker. So I think there's lots of benefits, but I think it's a little bit case by case. Probably, maybe I can convince you. Let's see if I can convince you, Gary. But I would say if there is a realistic possibility to have a communally accessible locker, and it's even less than slipper distance, because in this case it's going to be a couple of meters, or
Well, you have to pass it to get in the elevator to go home.
Absolutely,
it's so close, yeah.
Or for our American friends, a couple of yards. That's not a big deal. And I think that's probably the go-to model. But if you can't achieve that, then the second option is, yes, either you have a foyer-based machine that is going to be accessible only for that community and for the courier, and a network of let's call them community open lockers, and PUDOs to support that.
So, my problem with this is slightly different. I think this is an underutilized facility. At the moment, it's only used for delivery to the building. So all of the carriers can get access. They can come in, and they have to get access anyway. So I take on board your point, but it isn't the thing that drives calls to our contact center that the vehicles can't get there to make deliveries. It's kind of sorted. They're delivering all kinds of stuff to the building every day, and vehicles get everywhere in the US. They live and die in their cars. I think there's even a drive-through funeral home somewhere in the States, but they're only being used for drop-off. The carriers aren't integrated into those lockers, so they're just dropping them off against a directory. Why aren't they building them into their out-of-home option for pickup? Now imagine the convenience of you get your Nordstrom delivery into your locker, you take it up to your apartment, you try 3 things on, you keep one. As you go out to your car the following day, you drop your return into the locker in your building, and it triggers the carrier to come and pick it up.
Absolutely. And that, I think, by the way, I think this is a whole big topic, and I'd just love to look into this, because you're right, it's returns, but also, I don't know how big Second Life is in the US at the moment, but it's one of the fastest growing things in Europe, which is Second Life re-commerce, otherwise known as, let's say, Vinted, eBay, OLX. Can you imagine how amazing that would be? So for example, if we live in a certain area, of course, you've got the access issue, but if the locker is communally accessible, you don't actually even need a delivery or the middle mile. You can drop off something in a locker. Yeah. I can go to the same machine, pick it up. So returns, exchange, wow.
You, once again, Marek, you're showing your clairvoyance, because this reuse market isn't as big in the States as it is in Europe, but it's coming. This whole, I think in the US, it's more called like your side hustle. Lots and lots of people have got a side hustle, whether it's making something they sell on Etsy or trading in something, or like you say, reselling, reusing stuff. It would be super convenient for people to be able to just drop that in the locker in their lobby and know the carrier is going to pick it up and get it into the network in a very green and efficient way. We did the maths the other day, and there's something like 3 million people live in the buildings that are serviced by parcel pendings lockers in the US. That's as big as the population of some small countries. All right, it's a tiny fraction of the 300 million in the US. It's 1%, but you could extend your reach into 1% of American homes very easily by integrating into those lockers.
I think this is one we need to come back to. I'm particularly interested in the US market, and watch this space. Hopefully soon there's going to be some new material coming out about that market. But let's go back to it, because it's a cool story. And in the meantime, if anyone, because we really are interested, if anyone's got experiences, good and bad, from the United States out-of-home market, let us know, because I think this is going to be a more and more important topic.
And if you're watching from FedEx, just put your email address in the comments underneath. That'll be super. Thank you.
Thanks for watching this Last Mile Profits video. For more up-to-date last mile news and analysis, subscribe to our YouTube channel and follow us on LinkedIn.